Good afternoon, everybody. I want to extend my thanks to the Rotary Club for having me as its guest again this year, albeit under not so typical circumstances. It's strange to look at you inside of a small box on a computer screen instead of seeing your faces in person. But I'm honored to have the opportunity to share the state of our city with you. Good news should always be shared. But before I move on, let me go back. On January 27th, 2020, the city's safety director asked me what I had heard about a virus from China making its way around the globe, killing hundreds of thousands of people in its path. I'll be honest, I didn't have a clue. He persisted in telling me the city should start coming up with an emergency plan, because things might get pretty bad for us. Pretty bad. Little did we know. Toward the end of February, coronavirus was the topic of at least one meeting every day in City Hall. And by the second week of March, everyone was working from home, trying to figure out how to mute and unmute the microphones on Zoom calls. Now, nearly a year later, here we are. Some people still haven't figured out the muting and unmuting, but we have faced the blows of a pandemic. And while the threat of COVID still isn't over, we have withstood its challenges at every stage. So much last year was out of our control, but we excelled at everything that was within our control. And in the early days of 2021, I'm pleased to report the state of our city is standing strong. We are prepared and we are confident. It has been said that crisis builds character, but it also reveals character. Today, I can tell you I have never been more proud of our city or more proud to be your mayor. Jeffersonville is a city of great character because it is made of people with incredible will, persistence, and compassion, and that includes our city council. I've seen it throughout our community so many times over the past year. Neighbors looking out for neighbors, residents going out of their way to support local businesses struggling in difficult times, and businesses giving to the community despite their own uncertainties. People citywide have sacrificed their traditions, like celebrating holidays with their families, and they've skipped events that they had their hearts set on attending, not because they wanted to, but because they knew what was best. Not only have I seen it in our community, I've seen it in the folks I work with. Our city remains strong because of our dedicated workforce. Our city employees and first responders have reported to work every day throughout the pandemic to serve this community. They have put themselves at risk of catching COVID, taken on extra duties when their peers were forced away from work, and they have accommodated a new world of work practices. I want to especially thank our safety director, Brian Smith, for his unwavering dedication and counseling that has helped to keep our employees and the public safe over the last year. For all the city employees who might be watching this now or who may see it later, I want to thank you for your resilience and for being dedicated members of the City of Jeff team. I appreciate everything you've done to not only get us through uncertain times, but also to position us for the brighter days ahead. And believe me, there are some very bright days in Jeffersonville's future. Improving our economy and our neighborhoods is what drew me to public service. It continues to drive me as your mayor because good jobs and quality housing lead to thriving communities. We have made outstanding progress on both of these fronts over the last 9 years, and the pandemic didn't slow us down. Construction sites never slowed during the pandemic, and ground continued to be broken on new projects across the city, like the new McDonald's, which will open soon at the city's gateway at 10th and Spring Street, and the Hilton Garden Inn on the city's east end. Several much anticipated projects also wrapped up in 2020, bringing new business and investment to all areas of Jeffersonville. Escape Theaters opened its doors over the summer, becoming Jeffersonville's first movie theater in more than 20 years. Fairfield Inn and Planet Fitness also opened up on the east end of the city. Chicken Salad Chick and Five Guys Burgers joined the lineup of new offerings in Jeffersonville Town Center along Veterans Parkway. Starbucks and Jimmy John's celebrated their grand openings at the Gateway, and downtown Jeffersonville saw the completion of two of the most transformative projects in recent history, with the opening of the Walcott along Maple Street and the Union Game Yard and Restaurant on Chestnut Street. The exciting thing is, all of those places I mentioned are only a few of the new businesses that decided to call Jeffersonville home in 2020. Even more exciting, there's so much more to come. More than 2.4 million square feet of commercial and industrial developments were permitted by our Planning and Zoning Department in 2020. So you can expect to see a lot more businesses opening this year. And while this past year's pandemic may not have been too kind to some of our existing businesses, we were there to help many of them weather the storm. 25 different businesses were chosen to each receive $10,000 in grant funding. The money came from the state to help those small businesses survive the struggles of COVID-19. If there's something we learned from the months of the pandemic, it's that small businesses are the backbone of our community. So supporting our existing businesses is always a priority, but it's even more important in these difficult and challenging times. It was exciting to have that opportunity to help small businesses remain open and pay their employees. And speaking of the pandemic, the city was not immune from its impact on our finances. Whether it was more money for technology to allow employees to work remotely, the need to modify city buildings to ensure social distancing, or the purchase of personal protective equipment for our first responders, we were incurring expenses that we never imagined. And even without all of those unexpected expenses, we ended 2020 with $10.4 million in cash. How did we do it? We did it thanks to an ongoing Healthy Rainy Day Fund that we started building up 9 years ago when we came into office. So we were in great shape to meet the fiscal demands of COVID-19 without jeopardizing essential city services. That's not to say we didn't tighten our belt. Along the way, we found savings by canceling the summer concert series at the River Stage, closing the pool for the summer, and postponing some large infrastructure projects. In short, our fiscal health is strong. It's strong because Jeffersonville continues to grow. The pandemic hasn't slowed our growth one bit. The Jeffersonville Planning and Zoning Department said it actually saw an 8% uptick in new development. I know 2020 was a tough year, but looking towards the future, developers know opportunities are right here. As Jeffersonville continues to grow and develop, we are also attracting the attention from more people who want to live here and raise their families here. To that end, we are working hard to meet the city's long-term housing needs. More than 1,300 new residential units were approved for development in 2020, including 7 new subdivisions, extensions to 4 existing subdivisions, and a 190-unit multifamily development in Jefferson Ridge across from the Kroger on 10th Street. We recognize we have growing responsibilities as we welcome new people to our city. That's why we remain committed to updating and improving city infrastructure. Last year, we completed more than $2 million of paving throughout Jeffersonville neighborhoods, and we officially wrapped up the rehabilitation of Holman's Lane. This year, we're turning our attention to some other long overdue infrastructure projects. First is the Utica Sellersburg Road project. Thanks to a grant from the Indiana Department of Transportation, we will finally be able to repair one of the most problematic stretches of road in the city. The project will consist of reconstructing and widening Utica Sellersburg Road from Highway 62 to the railroad crossing near Keystone Boulevard, resurfacing the roadway and adding a turning lane at Highway 62. Second, I'm excited to be able to tell you that we're ready to move forward with our Charlestown Pike Enhancement project. This will not only widen one of the city's most traveled thoroughfares, but will also add turning lanes, sidewalks, and gutters, and we expect to start working on the design phase of the project any day now. But I'll be honest, this is going to be a long-term project, so be patient. Speaking of patience, that brings me to our biggest project, Jeff Diggs. It is in the final phase of the largest infrastructure project in the city's history, and it is our solution to one of Jeffersonville's longest-standing infrastructure concerns, our sewer system. While the project will be contained to the downtown area, it is going to cause disruption at times for residents and commuters over the next couple of years. I know it's going to be a pain, but Jeff Diggs will efficiently revitalize and expand our aging sewer infrastructure and is absolutely necessary in order to bring the city into compliance with the federal clean water standards. We might feel some growing pains over the next 2 years, but Jeff Diggs goes a long way in improving our community's quality of life. And our city is poised for more growth and development. Now is the time to start planning for our future needs. There's plenty of undeveloped land in the East End, and especially at River Ridge. We can't begin to capitalize on this potential unless we can serve the new homes and businesses with sewers. Now is the time to study the cost and options for expanding our North Wastewater Treatment Facility at River Ridge. If we're going to continue to enjoy the growth of the last 10 years, we must ensure we have the infrastructure new businesses and residential developers expect, such as sewer capacity. We can't afford to wait until it's too late, or we risk missing out on some great opportunities to bring investment and jobs to our community. I'm happy to report that we're improving the quality of life for our community's animals, too. In spite of COVID, we managed to complete renovations to the Jeffersonville Animal Shelter and celebrated its grand opening in December. Under Director Sarah Green's guidance, the improvements we've made at that shelter make for a more functional, healthy, and nurturing environment for the animals who make their way to our facility. As I've said before, I firmly believe the way we treat and care for our animals is a reflection on who we are as a community. An even greater reflection of ourselves is how we care for each other. 2020 was an especially taxing year for our public safety officials, but I'm extremely proud to have the men and women of our police and fire departments looking after our community. Under Chief Kenny Cavanaugh's leadership, the Jeffersonville Police Department continues to do an outstanding job keeping our residents safe while acting with bravery, compassion, and professionalism. I'm proud of the newly formed partnership between JPD and LifeSpring to help provide support when officers respond to calls involving substance abuse. Thanks to a $750,000 grant from the United States Department of Justice, 4 social workers will be hired to work alongside officers. It's just the latest innovative technique employed by Chief Cavanaugh to address the ever-growing opioid epidemic in our community. And our fire department, under Chief Sean Grant, has also continued to go above and beyond the call of duty, providing leadership through first responder and fire safety services to our residents during this long stretch of uncertainty. With Chief Grant's renewed focus on training, our fire department will soon be the hub of professional firefighter training in the region. Instead of sending our men and women elsewhere, they'll get their training right here in Jeffersonville, along with other firefighters from nearby departments. Jeffersonville continues to thrive because we remain committed to improving the quality of life for residents in every way we can. That also means making sure we're offering great places for folks to play, gather, and raise their families. That's why I was so thrilled earlier this year when we held the grand opening for Chapel Lake Park. At 116 acres, it is the city's largest park and also the first park east of I-265. It is a showstopper. Never before have our parks been more important than they were during the last year. When we were told to go home and stay away from others, parks were the only way for a lot of people to escape 4 walls closing in on them. That was apparent just a few months ago when we unveiled our newest park, Shirley's Arbor. To residents of neighborhoods along Charlestown, Pike, and Worley Road, it's a brand new 14-acre green space with more than 100 trees, walking trails, and a pond that will alleviate drainage issues in the area. I'm excited to be able to tell you that we'll be expanding Shirley's Arbor this year. In the few short months since we opened the park, there's been greater use of the park than we ever anticipated. We're now planning to construct a new playground at the park, along with additional parking. Public art remains an integral part of our commitment to improving the quality of life. And like I've said many times, nothing spurs economic development more than investing in amenities to improve the life for the residents. That's why I'm thrilled to see our new public arts administrator hit the ground running. Emily Dippy is the perfect person to continue to make Jeffersonville a better place through creativity. While COVID may have held back some of the projects of last year, Emily is ready to get to work. The NoCo Arts and Cultural District is getting noticed with developers interested in the area for a place to open new businesses. Construction is winding down on the depot, an innovative and unique project that is converting shipping containers into a venue that will host concerts and other events that will bring more people into NoCo. When I spoke to you all last February, I talked a lot about another important investment, our schools and the students who walk their halls. My administration has worked hard to be a good partner to Greater Clark. We have built roads to schools to alleviate traffic issues. We have gifted the Nahan Fieldhouse to Franklin Square to use as its gymnasium. We have created Jeffersonville's promise to give every Jeff High graduate the opportunity at a free college education. And we're donating a portion of our tax revenue back to the school system. So it breaks my heart that despite all of our best efforts to be a good partner, the school board recently decided not only to eliminate certified enrichment programs like art, music, and gym in some schools, but they also elected to close 2 more Jeffersonville schools altogether. Sometimes one of the hardest things for me to accept is that there are some things I can't control, especially when it's something I care about so deeply. I cannot tell you how disheartening it is to see 4 of our city's schools closed in less than 2 years, while other communities in the school district weren't asked to sacrifice on the same scale, especially at a time when Jeffersonville is experiencing record growth, both in residents and in industry. We've been committed to lifting up our kids and helping our schools since day one. Last year, I asked you to think about what you could do to help our kids succeed. I'm asking you again today, are you doing everything you can? Because now more than ever, our kids need our help, and frankly, our school board's help, if we want Jeffersonville to continue to be a thriving city for generations to come. And we will thrive together. Friends, if 2020 taught us anything, it was that it's a lot easier to get through something hard when you're not doing it alone. It showed just how resilient Jeffersonville is when we stick with each other. I know at times in 2020 was frustrating, challenging, and difficult, but we made it through together and all was not lost. Looking back on the last year, our city didn't just endure during a very, very challenging moment in history, but it excelled more than any of us ever expected. We did it together. We did it by working as a community, moving forward in step with one another. One can't deny that 2020 was a year where an extraordinary community did extraordinary things. So as we leave here today, I encourage all of you to look back and be proud of the accomplishments we have made in Jeffersonville. But more importantly, I invite you to look forward to 2021 with us. That's because looking forward is what sets Jeffersonville apart from other cities. With a shared vision of community where we're always striving to do better, our potential is limitless. There's still plenty of work to be done. Let's find a way to keep the best that came out of 2020 by moving forward knowing there's nothing that can hold us back. Thank you. I think we have Rotary members on board here and some media. So if there are any questions, I'd be thrilled and happy to take them.
I'll just jump in, Mayor. Turn in my camera just because we haven't seen each other in a few months. But I wanted to hear if you guys have gotten any hard data on just how big of an impact the coronavirus pandemic has had on the local economy. You know, if there's a figure like dollars lost or doors closed at businesses, has that been something your administration has looked into yet at this point?
We do not. John Boyle from National Public Radio. Thank you, John. John used to be a reporter with the News and Tribune. John, I don't have numbers like that. I know a lot of the statistics have come back and forth from the county, from the state, on lives lost. And I hope in this speech we never lose fact or the thought of, you know, the ultimate sacrifice here. I like to stop in and mingle around with a lot of the area restaurants, the owners. I'm still not at the comfortable level to go in and dine in restaurants, although I did the other night for Valentine's. I took my wife to O'Shea's. But I've got a good little network with a lot of the restaurant owners, and Pearl Street Tap House, Hoopsters, Parlor, Angie's Cafe, just to name a few. Yeah, they've been pinched. They've been pinched hard. And some of them are even more than others, because like Pearl Street Tap House, it's a very narrow shotgun house. So when the health department or the state comes in and really starts limiting sitting at a bar or staying 6 feet apart, if you're in an old 100-year-old house and, you know, it's a shotgun and you're trying to serve public, but you've only got 20 feet of width in your whole dining room, kind of hard to make that make sense. I don't have those numbers. I do know when we were able to, get the money from the state for helping and assistance to the local businesses. You know, we had different choices we could make. We had a criteria that we set out. We wanted to help the businesses that were locally owned, the small businesses that, you know, may only have 10, 12, 20 employees. And, instead of losing their jobs, we were able to make $10,000 grants to 25 different businesses inside the city of Jeff. I don't know if that fixed everything, but it's kind of good to know when you're in the role I play. There are ways you can make uses of resources. That was one of the resources I do feel good about. But the numbers you're asking for, John, no, I don't have a dollar amount on the economy locally that it has had this impact. That's one of the reasons why I want to encourage people to continue to help local. It's 5 years from now when we're looking back on this, unfortunately, there's probably going to be some businesses that shuttered up and closed because of this. I'd like to think if we're taking if we're doing some things now, maybe we can keep that from happening. Anybody else? Well, you're
I'm Mayor Nicole.
Okay, hey Nicole, how are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. I love to talk, so please, everybody, chime in. I want some questions. Have at it, Nicole.
This isn't a question, but perhaps something for you to elaborate on. I understand your fire department is celebrating 150 years this year.
150 years, yes. We've got some different things we want to do to celebrate that. I would like to take that opportunity to, maybe demonstrate how firefighting efforts have changed over the last 150 years. We've got some incredible stories from some men and women who have served on our fire department in the past. I'd like to sit down and talk with them. I'd like to get that on some type of segment on Facebook to where we can, do a question and answer and talk to some of our retired firefighters that are still living. An interesting note, Chief Kenny Cavanaugh, who's our police chief, his father, Les Cavanaugh, was the first African-American firefighter to be hired in the city of Jeff. Hey, that goes a way back, but it's something to celebrate, and 2021's a big year for our fire department. Nicole, you still living in New Albany?
I am.
I got to tell you, I had a little fun yesterday. I came over here to Pro Media, and I had my Jeff Red Devil shirt on, and I told Pro Media I was going to walk the streets of New Albany looking for Mayor Gahan and let him know what I was thinking.
You'll get run out of town wearing that shirt here.
Have we got anybody else got a question?
Well, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Thacker, and Jeffersonville has done an excellent job for the COVID shot, the vaccine. Initially, Martin Paget got it right soon after everything was available, even in December. And a lot of people have been vaccinated. And our Jeffersonville, Jeff Health Department has done an excellent job. So I just want to let you know that how good job they have done it. And that was all supported by you all and very well.
Well, I thank you. And I will say, COVID presented something to everybody in this world that we had no experience in dealing with before. So, it's kind of the time where you just want to sit down and say, who's got an idea? Let's hear it. And, sometimes some of the best ways to fix a problem is to open your ears and shut your mouth. And we had a lot of smart, good people come together across the whole United States. But, I'm going to talk about Indiana and Jeffersonville and Clark County. We took a severe blow, not only to a virus that challenged our, ability to live, but, it damaged the economy. And I think we're confident in saying we're getting to a point where I think you're going to start to see things more opening back up. I've not received the vaccine yet myself. My 84-year-old mother has, so I was tickled to death that she was able to receive the vaccine. And when they get down to the 56-year-olds, I'll be in line to get mine as well. But yeah, a big pat on the back to the hospital, to the health department, and to everybody. I know there's been a tremendous amount of volunteers. My daughter actually has gone over and helped. They're looking for volunteers. So, if you're getting a little stir crazy and you want to get out, wear that mask and play a role in history. Anybody that wants to help, we'll put you to work. But thank you for your comments.
And the volunteer has been so nice that whenever there is at the end of the day, when the vaccine was left, like 4, 5, 6, they prefer to give to the volunteer first.
Yeah.
And Martin Paget had done an excellent job to bring the vaccine right in our Jeffersonville area.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mayor Bob Mcintosh.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm standing.
As we come out of the coronavirus and perhaps the recession we are in, is Jeffersonville, Clark County, and really southern Indiana poised to be kind of a bellwether community as we come out of it, as far as job creation, economic development, and even housing? I know you mentioned some of these in your state of the city address, but are we in a unique position to perhaps be a bellwether community in that regards?
Bob, I'll tell you right now, we were a bellwether community 3 years ago. COVID actually, I think, emphasized just how strong Jeffersonville is. You're talking about something that devastated the world. And the numbers that I gave, I'm sorry if I put you to sleep during my speech, but those numbers are real. 2020, we had an 8% uptick in new permits, in people wanting to come in and build something in Jeff, whether it be a business or a family building a home. 1,300 new residential units in Jeffersonville. I'll ask you right now, take a look around at the other communities around us. It's not happening. So, yeah, the federal government, when they came in, 8 years ago, and said, we're building these 2 bridges. That was a shot in the arm that's going to be felt for generations, because the growth that is on our horizon is so tremendous, Bob. That's why it was so important to bring in Jeffersonville's promise. The jobs are coming. And if 2020 proved one thing, It's that Jeffersonville is the best location for any family or business to locate in the United States. We've got everything right here. And we've got farmland that, you know, some good farm families, when you and I were boys, that used to be the place where we either got our dairy milk or we got our corn or we got whatever. They're not being farmed anymore. So guess what's going to pop up there? New residential housing. Jeffersonville's promise was put in place because I know the residential growth is coming. I know the businesses are coming. Jeffersonville is going to be the place where college-educated kids get the opportunity to stay in their community and build a career in Jeffersonville. So, yeah, in a nutshell, we are the bellwether city, and things have been booming for 9 years. Bob, they're going to boom for another 20 as long as I'm around, and I've got the team working here. Everything you will want your community to have, Jeffersonville's got, and we're only going to get stronger from here.
Sound like a pretty good salesman.
I sold hamburgers for a living, Bob. Jerry's restaurant taught me well.
I remember.
Anybody else?
Mayor, this is Pat Byrne. Thank you for your leadership. I'm not sure, did you cover what's going on with Jeff Boat and what your plans are there?
Well, yeah, there's a lot I really can't speak about. Not that I want to be secretive, but Jeff Boat's in the hands of someone else, a private entity. We are continuing to have talks. Just for anybody who may be listening in, Jeff Boat's what built the city of Jeffersonville. In the early 1940s, I think there were less than 300 employees there. World War II started gearing up, and boom, within 3 months, 300 employees went to 12,000. So that's what brought a lot of people into Jeffersonville. It's been an incredible site. It's been an incredible piece of the history of Jeffersonville, but they're not building barges anymore. And so you've got 65 acres along the Ohio River, and everything a developer is looking at in Jeffersonville, whether it's River Ridge or residential growth, I promise you the property at Jeff Boat is just as magnified, right across from Louisville, Kentucky. Boy, oh boy, the opportunities are enormous there, but I can't, as mayor, just come in and say, we're taking your property. Eminent domain has limits. There are concerns there on that site. You were building commercial barges for years. You were dealing with lead paint. You were dealing with some other environmental factors. We have asked, and we have offered to pay for an environmental study of the site. They said no thanks. So it's frustrating. I'm a patient man. I'm going to continue to have conversations with the owners. They know we're interested. But anybody else who's looking at that site is going to have the same questions we have. Just because it's an incredible 65 acres on the Ohio River, there's environmental questions that have to be answered. There was something about 2 months ago, somebody put out some kind of email announcing they were going to do some, it was kind of funny because they didn't do any background check on what they could or couldn't do, but they made an announcement they were going to be breaking ground in 2021 for this new scrapyard down there. We took care of that. That's not allowed. So we're going to try our best to control what goes there. We would like to be a partner of it. We certainly are not in the developer business, but I think the potential for the Jeff Boat site is enormous for everything from green space to residential growth to commercial growth. But, that site's been there for over 100 years, and unfortunately, it's going to take some time to get to where we want to be. But I don't have an answer for you right now, and I'm sorry I can't share some of the information I've had with conversations with the owners. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Anybody else?
I'll jump in again, Mayor, and ask you just, this is John Boyle, WFPL. Ask you, we can't talk too much about Jeff Boat, but as far as, the riverfront and downtown Jeff goes, River Ridge has been great for the economy, but I think downtown and its rebirth is what's attracted a lot of eyes. And now we're fanning out into different parts of the city, but, that core is always what's going to be the launch pad, I feel like. So I wanted to know, in your mind, what's next for downtown or that riverfront? What sort of plans or what sort of vision do you have for that area?
I thank you for asking that question. I can remember back in May of 2012, I had a list of, I think, 23 items that I presented to the city council in 2012. And that was what my idea of where Jeffersonville needed to go. A lot of it included rebuilding and recreating our downtown. And I've got a little sheet on the back of my wall, sits behind my desk, where there's the top 10 or 12 things. All but one of them are checked off. And the only one that's remaining is underway right now down in the downtown area where the new park next to the NOCO is going. But I can remember having meetings at the riverfront when we wanted to redo the marina. There used to be some very unsightly docks that were in disrepair. The city really didn't play a role in maintaining them. And it honestly was not a good representation of Jeffersonville. And I will tell you, I had a meeting with at that time, the dock renters. I'll make a suggestion. Anybody else out there wants to go into public office and have a meeting, don't ever ask a bunch of boat dock people if they want to have a meeting at 5 o'clock on a Friday. Happy hour started a little bit early for some of them that day, but I wanted to hear what their conversations were. I was met with a lot of resistance because I wanted to rebuild the marina. We did it. A lot of the boat dock renters were not happy. And if you look at the downtown area, just about everywhere we said, hey, let's do this, there was some resistance. There were even city council members, those first few years, didn't want us to rebuild the marina, didn't want us to do the Big Four Station Park. Just about everywhere you look. We put incentives out there for the restaurants. We wanted new restaurants to come downtown. I think we've got 14 or 15 new restaurants within 6 blocks of where you exit the walking bridge. We put incentives in place because putting that growth down there led to a resurgence of all of downtown. You now not only have all these successful businesses and restaurants, you've got a fun nightlife. So the concerts on the river stage, all the fun people get to have, families get to have at Big Four Station Park, the walking bridge itself. 100,000 people a month still cross that walking bridge. All the people from Louisville have come over and have seen just how incredible Jeffersonville is. So, we're going to continue to do more things. We're doing it right now with NOCO and the depot. This site down there, if you've driven by and kind of wondered what those bright colored storage containers are, that's going to be a little artist village down there. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have a place you can listen to a concert and drink a beer and, do a little walking around. NOCO, north of Court. Everybody that comes across that bridge, I want to expand their territory. Come on over to NOCO. Come to the depot. Come see what else Jeffersonville has to offer.
And Mayor, final question here. It's been a busy week and a half of weather. How is your street department doing, and are they ready if another round comes through?
We are ready. Salt supply to me was, I can say the same thing about how we have stored our salt. It's similar to our rainy day fund. You keep a large portion of it at the ready because you never know when something's going to happen. We got hit yesterday, and I've taken a pause now, and it's coming back, I think, later. Our street department has been working around the clock. Now, you are limited to the crews, a CDL driver. You can't work them. You can't have them driving around 16 to 20 hours a day. So we've broken our shifts up into 2 shifts. Kevin Moreland is our street commissioner. He's got an incredible crew working with him. Kevin was a Jeffersonville police officer, I believe, for 25 years. I grew up with Kevin, played Little League with him, played actually on the Jeff Boat baseball team with Kevin Moreland. But he's done an incredible job. I talked with him 3 different times through the day, yesterday and last night. You know, when you get what we did, we came in yesterday and we put down a whole bunch of salt. Well, then the snow came in, and so through the night they're clearing the roads. But as everybody probably saw if they looked outside last night, the snow just kept coming and coming and coming. So we've concentrated all of our efforts on the primary roads. You know, you can drive around the subdivisions. Not many of the subdivisions have been hit right now because you had a 6 to 7 hour snowfall. You were clearing roads like Holman's Lane, Cooper's Lane, Highway or 10th Street, Utica Pike, Hamburg Pike. You were clearing those roads, and 2 hours later they were covered again. So the crews were concentrating on all that, and I think it's funny. You know, it's. People want to know why their neighborhood streets aren't clear. And I'll tell you, I've had this rule with my street department since I came in. Mayor Street is the last street to get paved. Or I'm sorry, the last street to be cleared. So, you know, we're gonna get to the neighborhoods and subdivisions in time. But my main focus and the street department's main focus is taking care of the streets that are getting, you know, 75% of the traffic flow. And to be honest with you, I hope you went out to Kroger and bought your goods before the snow came yesterday. It's better for our street crews if people in the neighborhoods aren't driving around getting out right now. Be patient, just like COVID. We'll get through it, but give our crews another day or two, and you know we'll be getting back to normal. But Mother Nature, you know, had a mid-February event for us, and we're dealing with it just like the rest of most of the country is. But I've looked around at, you know, the county and some of the other places around Jeffersonville. I don't think they were quite as prepared as we were. So hats off to Kevin Moreland and Jeremy Neff and Paul McGee and Clark Miles and all the crew. And I want to give a shout out. Judith Van Gilder was my assistant, executive assistant for the first 4 years being mayor. She's retired, but Judith, God bless you. She took a whole bunch of White Castle hamburgers up to the crew yesterday, and then lo and behold, Isaac Parker, our football coach at Jeff High, and the football team went up and did the exact same thing last night for the crews. That's why I love Jeffersonville. We've got some darn good people who are stepping up and recognizing in this time of need there's something anybody can do. There's no other place like Jeff, and that's why I love it so much. Okay, if there's nothing else, everybody, I will do this again February of next year, and let's hope we can do it in person. Thanks, everybody.